Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever felt that incredible surge of energy? That unwavering focus when you truly want to achieve something. Maybe it's a challenging personal goal or a big project at work that feels like a real game changer. Or maybe even just getting through a demanding week with some kind of purpose, that deep-seated drive, that internal engine. Well, today we're taking a deep dive into something absolutely fundamental to, well, everything we do, motivation. We're going to explore what truly fuels us, not just for a fleeting moment, that spark of inspiration, but for the long haul.
And for this deep dive, we've got a really insightful piece to work with. It's called The Unveiling of True Motivation. And like the title suggests, it really aims to crack the code on this powerful inner force. What's particularly fascinating here, and I think truly eye-opening, is
Hey boy,
how it directly challenges
hey boy.
some really deeply ingrained, almost universal beliefs we hold about where motivation actually comes from. It definitely makes you question why those common ideas often lead us, well, down dead ends.
That's precisely it. Yeah. So our mission for you today is to move well beyond those temporary sparks and surface level boosts we often chase. Hoping they'll do the heavy lifting. We're going to explore what true sustainable motivation really is, how to identify that genuine inner drive within yourself, and maybe most importantly, how to actively cultivate it for lasting success. Get ready for some aha moments that might just fundamentally shift how you approach your goals and really everything you set out to achieve. So let's start right at the very beginning. If I were to ask you, our listener, what does motivation mean to you personally? What comes to mind? For me, sometimes it's that subtle but persistent push just to tackle the day. That feeling that my actions connect to something larger. Our source absolutely nails it, I think. It defines motivation as that essential force driving us to get out of bed, to push through the tough stuff, and to truly reach for our dreams. It's like that invisible hand propelling us forward, often without us even fully understanding where it comes from.
Indeed. And the source really emphasizes that at its core, motivation is about finding and igniting that inner spark, the thing that genuinely propels us forward. It's not just about movement, like you said, but purposeful movement.
Right.
It's the energy that transforms intention into actual action. And when we truly manage to tap into that authentic, intrinsic motivation, we unlock this transformative power. This isn't just about making small improvements either. The source suggests it can lead to incredible personal achievements, fundamentally altering our capabilities and our resilience when we face obstacles. It's really the difference between just, going through the motions and operating from a place of deep, engaged flow.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting because let's be honest, many of us, and I definitely include myself here, fall into some pretty common traps when it comes to understanding motivation. We often misinterpret its source, and that misunderstanding, well, it can lead to those cycles of enthusiasm followed by, frankly, disappointment.
We absolutely do, and the source tackles these prevalent misconceptions head on. One of the most common and maybe most misleading beliefs is that motivation primarily comes from external triggers. We convince ourselves, right, that if we just find the right captivating speaker or splurge on that new gym membership or wait for that sudden, electrifying burst of inspiration, then we'll magically be motivated to take consistent action.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah.
Think about it. How many times have you started a new project or joined a new health program or adopted some new habit, all fired up and convinced this time it would stick, only to find yourself losing steam just a few weeks or maybe even days in?
Yeah.
That initial rush just fades and you're left wondering, where did all that motivation go, feeling a bit deflated? It's such a frustratingly common cycle.
And that's precisely the problem our source highlights. The truth is, these external factors, they can only provide a temporary boost. They're just fleeting stimulants. They don't actually address the underlying reasons why we want to achieve our goals in the first place. Or, importantly, what sustains us beyond that initial novelty. These are just surface-level attempts at building something profound. The source uses a really vivid analogy for this. It's like trying to build a beautiful house on shaky ground. It might look impressive for a little while. Maybe the initial construction seems promising, but eventually, without a solid internal foundation, it's inevitably going to crack, shift, and ultimately, collapse. You'll be right back at square one, or maybe worse off, feeling a bit cynical about it all.
That analogy really resonates. It explains so much about why many of us feel like we're constantly starting over. But speaking of common traps, there's another one I think many of us buy into. We tend to believe that motivation is something you either innately have or you don't, almost like a fixed personality trait. Some people are just motivated people, wired for success, and others, well, they're just not.
Yeah.
and there's not much they can do.
Right, and what's truly liberating here is that the source directly counters that whole notion. It clarifies that the reality is motivation isn't some fixed trait you're born with or without. It's actually a dynamic skill. Think of it like a muscle.
Yep.
It can be developed over time with consistent practice and, yeah, patience, much like learning an instrument or mastering new language. So it's not an inherent gift, but something you can actively cultivate. You can grow it, strengthen it throughout your life. It's an ongoing process, really, of self-improvement.
That completely shifts the paradigm, doesn't it? So if it's not just about chasing external triggers, and it's not something we're either born with or without, what then really drives motivation at its core? What's the true secret sauce, that leads to sustainable drive?
Well, the key insight from the source is that it all boils down to understanding what truly makes you tick. It poses a really critical, introspective question for the listener. Are you primarily driven by a desire to prove yourself to others, maybe meet external expectations? Or is it a genuine, deep-seated passion for the work itself, for the inherent satisfaction it brings? Recognizing this distinction is absolutely vital because it helps you tap into a much deeper sense of purpose and drive, one that's far more sustainable and resilient. When you're clear on your internal compass, you're just less swayed by external winds. And this brings us to a really fundamental concept the source gets into: intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation that comes from external sources, things like rewards, recognition, maybe avoiding punishment or gaining approval from others. And while these can provide a short-term push, they often don't last. In fact, fascinatingly, the source implies research points towards something called the over-justification effect, which is where offering external rewards for an activity someone already enjoys can actually decrease their intrinsic interest in it over time. It sort of makes the activity feel less like play and more like, well, work.
Wow, that's a powerful point. I've definitely seen that play out, with myself or friends. You're doing something just for the love of it. Then some reward gets introduced,
Yeah.
and suddenly it feels like a chore if that reward isn't there. So if extrinsic motivation can be kind of a double-edged sword, what about intrinsic motivation? How does that work?
Intrinsic motivation, in contrast, comes entirely from within you. It's a much more powerful and lasting driver because you're propelled by genuine interest, enjoyment, and satisfaction derived directly from the activity itself. The source implicitly aligns with some well-established psychological ideas here, suggesting that intrinsic motivation thrives on three core elements: autonomy, that feeling of control over your tasks and goals; mastery, the desire to improve and develop your skills; and purpose, the sense that your work contributes to something larger than yourself. When those elements are present, you're driven by the pure enjoyment or satisfaction of the activity itself, rather than just chasing some external validation or reward. It's really the difference between doing something because you love it versus doing it because you have to.
Right. And once you start to understand those inner drivers, those true intrinsic sparks rooted in autonomy, mastery, and purpose, it naturally connects to another crucial piece of this puzzle. Setting meaningful goals is not just about having any goals. It's about having the right kind of goals, ones that really resonate deeply with your values. I think many of us, myself included, have probably spent time chasing goals that didn't truly belong to us, only to wonder why the effort felt so heavy, so draining.
Absolutely, that's spot on. The source emphasizes that when your goals align with your deepest values and passions, you're much, much more likely to feel a profound sense of purpose and sustained drive. It makes perfect sense, right? Because if you're pursuing something that truly resonates with who you are and what you care about, the effort feels less like a chore.
Yeah.
And more like a natural extension of yourself. It's less about sheer force of will and more about finding that flow. The source gives us another great analogy here. It's like having a clear roadmap to follow. You know exactly where you're going, and you're actually excited to get there because it's a journey you genuinely want to take, one that truly reflects your internal compass. Conversely, if your goals are misaligned, even if they look successful from the outside, they can feel hollow. They can end up draining your motivation rather than fueling it.
Okay, but here's the kicker. Even with a crystal clear understanding of your intrinsic motivations and these beautifully aligned goals, it's still so easy to get sidetracked, isn't it? Life happens, challenges pop up, that initial excitement can sometimes, wane a bit. The roadmap might be clear, but the terrain can get tough sometimes. So what helps you maintain that drive when the going does get tough, when the roadmap seems a bit muddy and the path steep?
Yeah, that's where self-discipline comes in as the critical and often really undervalued missing piece. The source makes it quite clear. Self-discipline isn't just about raw willpower, like gritting your teeth. It's more like a strategic framework that helps you stay on track, even when the initial enthusiasm fades, or when you're tired, or when distractions are just everywhere. It's that inner resolve, that commitment that allows you to push through challenges and stay focused on your goals, regardless of external circumstances or how you might feel in any given moment. It's the consistent effort applied day in, day out, even when that initial spark isn't actively firing brightly.
So it's not just about gritting your teeth then, but something more strategic. Because I think a lot of people equate self-discipline with just brute force willpower, which frankly often feels completely unsustainable. What does the source say about how we actually cultivate this skill? Is it just about trying harder?
No, exactly. It's much more strategic than just trying harder. The source frames self-discipline less as a heroic act of sheer willpower and more about consistent, planned action. It touches on concepts like pre-commitment, basically, making decisions in advance to lock in the behaviors you want, like laying out your running clothes the night before you plan to run, or blocking off specific distraction-free work time on your calendar way ahead of time. It also hints at environmental design, shaping your surroundings to make the desired actions easier and the undesired ones harder. Putting healthy snacks right at eye level and maybe keeping your phone in another room when you need to focus. Simple things. And crucially, it's about understanding and managing something called decision fatigue, recognizing that our capacity for making good choices actually depletes throughout the day. So by automating routines and making fewer non-essential decisions, we reserve our precious discipline for what truly matters.
Oh, okay. So it's about building systems and structures around yourself,
Yeah.
not just relying on some finite supply of willpower that runs out by 3 p.m. That makes so much more sense. It sounds like self-discipline in this context is really the practical application of our values and goals, isn't it? Translating them into consistent everyday action.
Exactly right. And that consistency is where the magic truly happens. The source really emphasizes that consistent small actions powered by this strategic self-discipline lead to compound growth over time. It's not about making one grand heroic effort that burns you out. It's about showing up daily, making those small aligned choices again and again, and building momentum. That seemingly mundane consistency is the engine that keeps your intrinsic motivation burning, even when the initial fire has settled into more of a steady glow. It's the daily tending of that inner spark, keeping it alive.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, in really practical terms?
Oh.
The source brings it all together beautifully, I think, moving us beyond abstract ideas to a powerful, actionable formula that simplifies what might feel like a pretty complex journey to sustained motivation.
Indeed. The ultimate conclusion from the unveiling of true motivation is that the real secret to lasting motivation lies in this powerful, interconnected combination. You need to foster authentic intrinsic drive, underpin that with astute, strategic self-discipline, express it through unwavering consistency, and crucially, align your goals with your core values. When you effectively combine all these elements, understanding your deep why, building those strategic habits, showing up every day, and making sure your path truly reflects who you are, you create an incredibly powerful formula for success. You're no longer just relying on those fleeting external sources of motivation. Instead, you're driving yourself forward with an authentic internal engine, fueled by a clear sense of purpose and direction that truly resonates deep within you. It becomes self-generated, sustainable momentum.
Wow. So today we've taken a really deep dive into the true engine of motivation. And it's clear it's not about waiting for inspiration to strike or chasing those temporary external boosts that, let's face it, inevitably fade. Instead, we've learned it's about cultivating motivation as an inner skill. It involves understanding your authentic, intrinsic drivers, setting truly meaningful goals that resonate with your deepest values, and then applying consistent self-discipline, remembering it's not just willpower, but strategic habit formation to keep you on course, even and especially when things get tough.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this understanding fundamentally shifts how you can approach pretty much any challenge or aspiration in your life, whether it's professional or personal. It's really about building a solid internal foundation for your drive. It gives you genuine agency over your own progress, rather than constantly seeking external inputs or waiting for that next motivational hit. It truly empowers you to be the architect of your own sustained success, built from the inside out.
Which raises, I think, an important question for you, our listener, to consider as we wrap up. Beyond the what you want to achieve, have you truly explored and connected with the why behind your most important goals? Specifically, that intrinsic why, the one rooted in autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And based on that deeper, more authentic why, what's one small, consistent, self-disciplined step you can commit to taking this week to strengthen that internal drive? Just one small thing. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into what truly motivates us. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep driving forward with purpose.